no one had ever heard of Wilkes. He wasn't taught in the schools, nothing. I come back into the Museum of Natural History, and I was head of the curatorial Senate of Scientists, and I did a little slideshow then, like you're seeing here, for the curators. And I said, around the world they appreciate Wilkes, and yet we don't. And one curator came up to me and he says, Herman, I'll help you if you want to make an exhibit. And George Watson, he's an ornithologist, said, if you want to do an exhibit, I'll help you. And so I said, let's sit down and have lunch. And we talked about it. And so to make a very long story short, this exhibit got created. And the exhibit is extremely important for one reason, well, several reasons. But the Museum of Natural History got really established because of the collections of this expedition. And it turned out that this expedition discovered Antarctica. So the U.S. claim to Antarctica comes from this expedition. A number of the plants we use today, everyday life, Norfolk Island pine, things like that, were brought to America by this expedition. And so the first title for this exhibit was going to be Men of Greatness, Feats of Daring, because there were like 300 sailors that had gone on this expedition. And I brought a team of people together, because when you think of the Smithsonian, you kind of think of one entity, but we actually have like 13 museums. And each of those museums is like a little city-state. And so I had to get curators from the different museums. The History Museum has the scientific instruments. So anyway, I called a group of people to meet in my office, men and women, and we sat down the first time to talk about developing this exhibit. And the title was going to be Men of Greatness, Feats of Daring, and I handed out a sheet of paper with that on it. And the one woman curator from American history, who was a raging feminist at the time, she looked at this and threw the paper in the air and says, with a title like this, you're not going to have my help. And of course, if she wouldn't help, I wouldn't get the scientific instruments that we needed to put in the exhibit, because they had custody. And so right then and there was a silence in the room. And we said, well, what could be a good title for this exhibit? And well, we spent about an hour kicking titles around, and finally, Magnificent Voyagers. No sexual connotation with the Voyagers. And she said, I can live with that. And so that's how it got started.